I think the American people are going to be
Good evening, everyone. Still trying to get all my streams together here. Love X. I can't. There's too many that you have to stream from, and I can never get them all to work at the same time. And if you don't do it right on time, I think it actually times you out. This is crazy. Although, wait a minute. Looks like I see it now. Bear with me, everybody. This is so weird. Give it one more shot, and I'm just not even going to try on X anymore. Nah, I give up on X. All right, well, tonight, I'm just going to go over a few things, one of which is the debate. And I was very disappointed in how the debate went down. I think a lot of people have their opinion on it. Most, of course, who are Trump fans are going to say that Trump won, which is understandable. And of course, those who follow or are going to vote for Kamala Harris said that she won. But let's be honest, it was 3 against 1. David Muir, who's a complete cheese dick, and his partner, I forget her name now. Who was it? Lindsay Davis. I don't know why Trump continues to agree to go on these alphabet networks that he knows are going to be biased against him, and they are going to do everything they possibly can in order to make it difficult on him. And they even fact-checked him last night. One of the things that they fact-checked him on, David Weir, tried to correct him on, was the crime statistics. And Trump just recently came out with a Truth Social post that said that massive news, the Department of Justice just released brand new crime data showing us absolutely and completely right at the debate. In fact, the data is even worse than we could have ever imagined. Compared to 2020, violent crime is up nearly 40%. Rape is up 42%. Aggravated assaults are up 55%. Violent crime with a weapon is up 56%. Violent attacks on strangers are up 61%. Car theft is up to 42%. And the most serious forms of violent crime are up 55%. Our cities are under siege. And this does not include the migrant crime and migrant rape spree that has overtaken our cities in recent months. Kamala crime is destroying America, and gangs are taking over. So a couple of things that he didn't do is he didn't really concentrate a lot on the illegal immigration. And I had a conversation yesterday with Alex Jones, and I brought that up yesterday in that conversation, that Donald Trump just simply didn't go hard enough at all in that debate. Let me know what you think. those of you that are here, if you were satisfied with what he did, or did you agree with me that he didn't go hard enough? I would have. He got sucked into the abortion issue, which I think was a strategy by the Harris team. He should have gotten out of that as quickly as he possibly could and just labeled her for the rest of the debate as a baby killer. He just should have called her the baby killer over here. This baby killer. That's what I would have done. And he didn't go into her Marxist communist background enough. And he certainly didn't go into, he mentioned immigration a number of times, but he didn't go into immigration enough in the sense that the fact that she's a Marxist and a communist, the playbook, the plan, the strategy of a Marxist communist is to bring in non-assimilating immigrants by the millions in order to destroy the country. That's their playbook. That's their strategy. And he didn't hit on that at all. He mentioned that she was a Marxist. He mentioned Kamala Harris's father is a known Marxist and a professor at Stanford, but didn't tie the things together. That Clyde Piven and Marxists, this is their plan, and they, I mean, it's well known. It's not really in dispute that communists destroy a country by bringing in non-assimilating aliens. That's what they do. And he did mention kind of briefly about the fact that they were using the justice system against him. But again, I would have hammered that on repeat as well. Just like the immigration, I would have just repeated that over and over again, calling her a baby killer. He should have, on repeat, kept on saying how they were using the justice system to try and keep him from becoming a president. How they weaponized the justice system. How every single trial was designed by them in order to keep him from getting into office. And then parlay that into the assassination attempt and say that Kamala Harris and her team, because the lawfare didn't work or didn't really have the effect that they thought it would, now they tried to take me out. And I would have kept saying that again. Not only does she want to kill babies, she wants to kill me. I mean, it's really at this point, that's who these people are. Communists will kill you in order to stay in power. Communists will kill you and starve you to death in order to remain in power. That's proven throughout history. So yeah, he didn't have it. Yeah, I mean, I think he could have given himself, Kazan, more of an opportunity to go after her, but it seemed as if he just wasn't prepared. He didn't really have a strategy, and I think apparently from what I understand and what I've been reading, he never prepares for these things. He just kind of just goes right into it and just it's off the cuff. And one of the things that was mentioned, David Weir, this little bitch that he is, called Trump on the crime statistics. And if you're paying attention to what's going on in the crime statistics, Biden did the same thing. He brought Biden. I can't remember where he brought it up, whether it was the debate he had with Trump. And that's funny too. I would have brought that up. I would have brought up the fact that I'm debating with Biden, who was supposed to be president, and now Kamala Harris, who nobody elected. That's another, I think, should be a very touchy subject to Democratic voters the fact that they didn't vote for her. She was picked by the Democratic Party, and I'm going to go into that when I start reading Profiles in Corruption by Peter Schweizer. Another misstep by the Trump campaign. All they had to do is buy this book and read it, the very first chapter, and it would have told you everything you need to know about Kamala Harris's background. But I guarantee you, Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita didn't look at that book. But the crime statistics, I think this was in March, this had come out, that the crime statistics were way off because there's 18,000 agencies that report. And only 7,000 agencies actually reported. And the reason for that is because the FBI was upgrading their network. It's called the NIBRS, National Incident Based Reporting System. And what happened was, even the most violent cities, NYPD, LAPD, SFPD, San Francisco, Houston, I believe Chicago, did not report their crime statistics because they were way behind in upgrading their systems to be compatible with this NIBRS system. Now, if his campaign managers were paying attention, he should have been prepared for that. And what I would have said is, hey, David, not for nothing, but if you're going to correct me, at least have your statistics correct. And then I would have said, the reason you have no idea what you're talking about is because of this, this, and this. There was only a certain amount of agencies that reported. So if have the common decency, if you're going to correct me, to have your shit together. I mean, he needs to go way scorched earth now. He needs to go way over the top. What's happening with his current campaign managers is, we need to be all things to all people. Now we're going to start just trying to we're going to do the please everybody strategy. And as you know, you try to please everybody, you end up not pleasing anyone. And that's what's happening now with his base, with people like me. I'm looking at him going, I voted for you in 2016, and now you're just going to leave me out to dry because you're trying to you're trying to attract the Karens of the world. Is that what you're trying to do? So he screwed up on a bunch of things. I mean, I think, and again, I'm not going to get into the entire chapter. I'm going to go piece by piece. So I want to go through this chapter on Kamala Harris and Profiles in Corruption because I think it's extremely important. I think people need to know. And I don't know how many people have read this, how many books he sold, how many people actually remember it after they read it. But this is really, really important information about her. And I think that if people know this background about her, because they get bits and pieces from the media, the other thing was they hammer Donald Trump, the left does, and says, oh, well, you're basically calling him a racist because he's like, I don't know if she's black or she's Indian. Which one is she? Instead of saying, and he should have said in the debate as well, she's Indian, her father's Jamaican, she's not African American. I mean, tell the truth instead of all of a sudden going on the defense because somebody calls you a racist. She's obviously trying to pretend to be something that she's not. Call her out for it. I mean, the racism thing doesn't work anymore. The anti-Semitism thing doesn't work anymore. That ship sailed a long time ago. People are sick and tired. They know what's going on now. Thank God of social media like X, which their live stream doesn't work. Let me try that again while I'm bitching about it. I see it right here. I'm broadcasting, but I don't know. I guess, I don't know, but whatever. But yeah, he just they were all over the place in this debate. He didn't take control. He should have taken control. Yeah, I guess he did win, but now apparently, I don't know if this is true, Kazan. If you've heard this or anybody else, that he said, or I don't know whether he said it or it's floating around somewhere, that there is not going to be a second debate, which I think sucks. And then the other thing too is they were accusing her of using some earpiece deal, some earring that was on Kickstarter that looked exactly like this, not microphone, but earpiece or whatever, speaker or whatever into her ear. But yeah, I think Trump really lost an opportunity on the lawfare, the assassination attempt, the border. He did say, good for him at least, and he should have hammered it again, that would you have the opportunity to close the border right now. And then the other thing, probably the biggest of them all, is, and I just would have stuck to these main things. I would not have discussed anything else. I just simply would have repeated this stuff over and over again. You've been in office all of this time. This is the most simplistic argument that shuts everything down, like, entirely. You've been in office. You've done nothing. Now you're trying to tell everybody that when you become president, you're actually going to do something. Why would anybody believe you? But in the grand scheme of things, it probably wouldn't matter necessarily, because all the psychos that are going to vote for Kamala are going to vote for her anyway. But maybe he would get some independence. That's the other thing, Kazan. He should push for another debate. And then the thing is, when I lost my train of thought, he goes and agrees to go on CBS. And the woman who, Lindsay Davis, apparently, I don't know if it was her or the president or head, whoever it is, broad, at ABC, set up Kamala Harris and her husband. And yeah, most likely got the questions in advance. But the thing was, it wasn't like the questions weren't even really that difficult. If Trump had just stuck to these most important points, he would have just absolutely destroyed her. So, but he didn't do it, and it was really pretty pathetic. A couple more things, and then I'm going to start reading the profiles in corruption. And like I said, I'm only going to do bits and pieces because I don't want to just do a show where I'm just reading. I want to kind of discuss it, but I think it's extremely important that people know about this stuff. And then you can let me know if you've heard this information before about her. If not, please make sure you share it as well, because people need to know what her background is and how all this stuff ties in, because this whole thing is incestual. and in the beginning of the chapter, you'll see, but Richard Blumenthal, Representative Richard Blumenthal, this guy, Stolen Valor Blumenthal, who claimed he was in the Vietnam War when he wasn't, surprisingly said that he was astonished and appalled about the failures of the Secret Service in the assassination attempt for former President Trump.
I think the American people are going to be shocked, astonished, and appalled by what we will report to them about the failures by the Secret Service in this assassination attempt on the former president. But I think they also ought to be appalled and astonished by the failure of the Department of Homeland Security to be more forthcoming, to be as candid and frank as it should be to them in terms of providing information. And we are going to absolutely insist on the truth and the whole truth in documents and testimony as members of the United States Senate, but also as citizens.
What did you learn new today when you said they're going to be appalled? What
I'm not going to go into what we have learned in specifics. I'm giving you my reaction, and we will have a report very, very soon that I think will absolutely shock the American people, or it should, about the lapses and lags in the protection that was afforded that day and the breakdown in communication, failure and responsibility.
Is that report coming today or tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
Is that report coming out tonight or tomorrow?
No.
I'm not really quite sure how to look at this, but he's saying the American people are going to be shocked and appalled based on the information that comes out on how Department of Homeland Security and the Secret Service failed at their job. Now, is in all likelihood, this can't possibly be one of those things where it's like, you know, this was an inside job, and there was someone within either the administration or the government was trying to assassinate Trump. This is going to be some sort of a cover-up thing. I don't trust what is going to come out over this. I don't trust it at all. I think it's going to be, hey, look how incompetent these guys were. Look, a bunch of buffoons, Keystone Cops. They didn't know what they were doing. But now we're going to correct it. Everything's fine. I think that's what they're going to end up doing because, again, you know, they can't. They have to sort of put an end to this. They have to tie up loose ends. And it's not going to be, yeah, we figured out this guy was, it was this incompetence and this lack of professionalism or whatever it is. It wasn't on purpose. It was all a mistake because they just didn't know what they were doing. So we'll see, but I don't trust any of this at all. One more thing that I'm going to go into, and then I'm going to move on, is apparently Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala Harris, because right after the debate, timing is everything, ladies and gentlemen. Follow the money and timing, just like the Trump trials, and just like Taylor Swift and her boyfriend, who rumor has it that they have a contract to be in a relationship. They were at the U.S. Open last weekend, along with a lot of movie stars and sports stars and other stars at the U.S. Open, which I believe were paid to be there, just like this Kelsey Swift thing, I believe, is completely manufactured. CBS News is claiming there's been a 400 to 500% increase in voter registration since she's come out for Kamala Harris. Between 9,000 and 10,000 people per hour, according to data from TargetSmart. It's really unlike anything I've seen, says TargetSmart Senior Advisor Tom Bonier. I don't believe that for a second. You're going to sit there and tell me that 9,000 to 10,000 people per hour are registering? That is an absolute lie. At least if you're going to lie about it, make the numbers look a little bit more realistic. But it's just interesting right after the debate that all of a sudden Taylor Swift makes this announcement. Of course she's going to be voting for Kamala Harris because she needs to make that money. If she does,
I think the American people are going to be
if she tries to, or if she supports Donald Trump, that's the end of her career. I mean, I think everybody knows that at this point now, how it works in Hollywood. So yeah, David Muir was definitely working. I mean, this is what frustrates me with Donald Trump. I guess the arrogance is so great that he feels he doesn't need to prepare for a debate. He thinks, I guess, that he's going to walk into CBS, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, and somehow get around the corruption of, I mean, it's state-run media. It's like this. It's no different than Soviet communists running the media. That's what's happening now. We have American communists that are running the media and in control. So of course they're going to do. They tried to take him out. They tried to kill him. I mean, they were trying to put him in jail with lawfare. So of course they're going to set him up during these debates. But of course they have to do the best they can to not make it look obvious. All right. So I'm just going to read some of this Profiles in Corruption by Peter Schweizer. And what I'll do is I will continue to read it, just go over, different things that are going on in the news and everything, but then continue to read it. So it doesn't take too long, because there's a lot of information in this book. It's actually it's the second chapter, not the first chapter. But it's really interesting stuff, and there are a lot of things throughout her history that, again, Trump needs to capitalize on. His campaign people should have known. But let's get into it. President Barack Obama stood in front of an array of well-heeled donors in a private home in super-rich Atherton, California. Having just been reelected 5 months earlier, he was touting his White House accomplishments. After a few comments, he praised California Attorney General Kamala Harris, who was also in the room, and highlighted her dedication and brilliance. He added, "She also happens to be, by far, the best-looking Attorney General in the country." While the comments struck some observers as inappropriately personal and unprofessional, they revealed the close and long history that Obama and Harris shared. Listen to this. Harris had first supported Obama while he was running for the Senate in Illinois in 2004. This right away should give you a clue that this relationship is the reason Kamala Harris is running for president right now. That opening statement, that opening paragraph, a couple of paragraphs in this chapter, just goes to show you the past history of Obama and Harris. They're both communists. And she is obviously not as well known. That's why Biden was handpicked as well. I mean, Bernie Sanders, they did a number on him, and they shoehorned Biden right on in there with Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris was disliked by virtually everyone, but somehow became the vice president, waiting in the wings. And now this happened. So I'm more convinced now than I have ever been that this whole thing was planned, because even when he was running for president, you had to know that this guy was on the decline and that eventually she somehow was going to get in. He's lasting longer, I think, than they predicted, but they shoehorned her in as well, and they're hoping that she's going to become the president. They are now, as soon as Trump decided that he was going to run for president, all of a sudden all of these court cases came out of the woodwork. Then all of a sudden some crazy kid tries to shoot him. But they've known each other since 2004. They have a close relationship. They're both communists. That's all you need to know. After he was elected, Obama flew out to San Francisco and held a fundraiser for Harris. She had just been elected San Francisco district attorney and needed to retire some campaign debt. The newly minted senator from Illinois showed up at San Francisco's famed Bimbos on Broadway to help. In 2007, when Obama announced his plans to run for president in Springfield, Illinois, she was again by his side. So 2004, now 2007, still together. Harris and several members of her family joined the campaign. Harris, her sister Maya, we've heard a lot about Maya at the DNC, didn't we? And her brother-in-law Tony West would labor over the next year to help Obama's ambition become a reality. Kamala walked the snowbound precincts of Iowa, visited New Hampshire, and traveled to Nevada and Pennsylvania to campaign for him. Harris took the helm of his California campaign, serving as co-chair. When Obama won, she was with him in Chicago's Grant Park to celebrate the victory. Harris is widely admired in progressive circles as the female Obama. How about them apples? Smooth, polished, and confident, she has worked hard to cultivate a celebrity mystique while fiercely guarding her privacy. I can imagine why she's needed to do that. This rising star in the Democratic Party also has a taste for expensive Manolo Blahnik shoes and Chanel handbags. I'm not sure what those are. I mean, I know Chanel handbags, but Manolo Blahnik? I don't know. Is that... I don't know what that is. Just checking here, sorry. Harris paints herself as a gritty lawyer who is climbing the ladder of power by her own strength and determination. She has also positioned herself as a, quote, smart on crime, even publishing a book by that same title. The reality of her rise to prominence is far more complicated, and how she's leveraged her power along the way is troubling. Harris's elevation to national politics is closely tied to one of California's most allegedly corrupt political machines, and investigations into her tenure as a prosecutor raised disturbing questions about her use of criminal statutes in a highly selective manner, presumably to protect her friends, financial partners, and supporters. Did anybody do any background research on her? On the Trump campaign, I mean. Is there anybody that's on the Democratic Party that's a communist and not corrupt? Most disturbing. She has covered up information concerning major allegations of criminal conduct, including some involving child molestation. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but that goes on within the chapter that, again, Trump could have capitalized on in the debate. You want to talk about abortion? How about your handling of child molestation while you were a DA in California? Kamala Devi Harris was born to Donald Harris. Her Jamaican-born father, and Dr. Shaimala Gopalan, her Tamil Brahmin mother from India. But she's trying to make herself out as African American. Her father is a Marxist economist who taught at Stanford University. At one point, he advised the Jamaican government. Her mother was a highly regarded research scientist who worked in the field of breast cancer. Her parents were divorced when Kamala was 5, and her mother's family had a defining influence on her childhood. One of the most influential people in my life, in addition to my mother, was my grandfather, T.V. Gopalan. Now listen to this. This is good. He actually held a post in India that was like the Secretary of State position in this country, Harris recalled. So her grandfather was a big-time politician in India. My grandfather was one of the original independence fighters in India. And some of my fondest memories from childhood were walking along the beach with him after he retired and lived in Besant Nagar in what was called Madras. Harris draws on those Indian roots to define herself. So then this is how the chameleon thing works. And of course, Trump gets called a racist because he's talking about, what is she? Is she trying to be black? AKA African American, or is she Indian? And this is what they do. They try to, be a chameleon and change who they are, because it's a lie. They're disingenuous. Instead of just being yourself, they have to lie. When we think about it, India is the oldest democracy in the world. So that is part of my background, and without question has had a great deal of influence on what I do today and who I am. So it's all about being an Indian. It's all about India. She doesn't talk about her father. And by the way, I don't know if anybody knows, Kazan, I don't know if you noticed, that when Trump did call her a Marxist, her reaction was one of the most, she had a lot of reactions, but that reaction was probably the greatest one, or the most animated reaction, because these people who are communist Marxists, when they get called that, it blows their mind, because they're trying to do everything they possibly can to not get called that name. So in the Marxist playbook, it says specifically, I don't want to make sure that you call yourselves progressives. Don't call yourselves Marxists. Don't call yourself communists, even though we know we are that. They admit that they are, but you can't use that word. You have to call yourself a progressive. And if anybody does use the communist word or Marxist word, you come after them and you call them, conspiracy theorist, you call them a McCarthyite, you whatever it is, in order to try and demean that person, because they know that word, it's kryptonite to them. And she certainly had a visceral reaction to that. But yeah, she pulled her head back and was like, couldn't believe that he actually said that to her. I have to go back and look at it again. Maybe I'm making a bigger deal of it than I am, or than it was, but I'm pretty sure that her reaction was pretty strong to that. So here again, she's talking about her Indian roots. She's talking about her Indian grandfather, who was basically Secretary of State in India. Okay, that's a big deal. That's not, that's not somebody who was like the mayor of, some little town in a state, or even governor. I mean, he was a bigwig, and she wants to now tell everybody that she's African American, and her father was Jamaican, a Jamaican Marxist who advised the government of Jamaica. So you can see she already has this interesting background. She's very close friends with Obama since the early 2000s for over 20 years. And on top of that, was integral in his campaign. He was in hers. And then all of a sudden, because how many people say that Obama right now is running the government? A lot of people say that. He even said himself that, if he could have a third term, he'd like to run it from behind the scenes. And I'm pretty sure that's what's happening right now. Yes, South Bend. Harris recounts regular visits as a child to her mother's homeland. After she was elected district attorney of San Francisco in 2003, she traveled to India and found that her grandmother had organized a party and press conference for her. Her grandfather was still a government official in Chennai. One by one, people came to pay homage. It was like a scene out of The Godfather, Kamala said. Harris was close to her grandfather, who was a joint secretary in the central government, and instilled in her a thirst for service. While Harris attended Howard University, a traditionally black college, and served as president of the Black Law Students Association at Hastings College of Law in San Francisco, many saw her leaning more toward her mother's culture than her father's. And there was also a TV show that she was on, some sort of cooking show with an Indian girl that was on The Office. I don't know her name. And the Indian girl goes, "Yeah, I know you're really, into your Indian heritage and that you're Indian." But no, she's African American now. Are they going to say that she's the first black? I guess are they saying that she's? I don't even know, because I don't remember now. Were they calling her the first black vice president? So, according to her mother, Shyamala, Kamala knows all of the Hindu mythology and traditions, and that Kamala will be equally at ease in a temple or a church. She's a very good chameleon. A temple or a church. She could definitely, she's like Plato. She could be whatever you want her to be. And we're going to get into that part too in subsequent paragraphs and other shows. Harris was born during Dussehra, a major Hindu celebration. Quote, "So I gave her the name thinking of goddess Lakshmi. Shyamala insisted that giving her daughters names derived from the Indian pantheon was important to her child's development. A culture that worships goddesses produces strong women," she says. Adds her mother, Kamala is a frequent visitor to the Shiva Vishnu Temple in Livermore, California. She performs all rituals and says all prayers at the temple. My family always wanted the children to learn the traditions irrespective of their place of birth. So the next part gets into how she got into politics, and we'll get into Willie Brown, but I'm going to call it a night for tonight, because like I said, I didn't want to drone on, but this gives you somewhat of an introduction, if you will, to Kamala Harris and who she is. And I think the most important part of this is that she goes way back with Obama, and they know each other very, very well. And that her grandfather was high up in Indian politics, Secretary of State level type politics. And that she identifies as an Indian. I don't think, after reading this and after hearing from her own mother and from her, from this text that I just read, I really don't think that you can argue that she's African American. And once again, Trump is proven correct in what he said. But the problem he runs into is that he's called a racist because that's the best way for them to shut somebody up. And he allows it to happen. Instead of having this stuff available and saying, wait a minute, wasn't your grandfather Secretary of State level in India? Didn't your mom say that, she took you to all these, you were just as comfortable in a temple as you are in a church or whatever it was? And go into all into these things and have this stuff memorized. Your own mother is basically saying that it was important that I named you based on Indian goddesses. I mean, and you're going to sit here and try and gaslight everybody and say that you're black when it's quite obvious that you were brought up as Indian, like full blown. I mean, you went back to India to go visit your grandfather. And he was treated like he was the godfather. And over, it's mentioned by you and your mother how you draw from your Indian roots. Yeah, this, the Profiles in Corruption gets into Bernie Sanders and how he made his money, Joe Biden and how he made his money, Amy Klobuchar and let's see, Elizabeth Warren. Cory Booker was another one. Yeah, Cory Booker. Let's see who else. Oh, Eric Garcetti. Sherrod Brown. But yeah, I wish I had done earlier. I wish I had done Joe Biden. And I can't imagine, and I don't remember the Joe Biden chapter as much because there's just so much. I don't know if he does get into the whole thing with, I don't think he gets into the stuff with Burisma and all those things that are going on with Hunter. I think there were other things that maybe it does. I can't remember. I will go into that. My main thing right now is because obviously Kamala is in the mix. Elizabeth Warren one is really good. I'll go into that one too because she is a hypocrite of all hypocrites. She talks about how the little people, get screwed over. Yet during the mortgage crisis, the book gets into how she had bought up all of these homes when everybody was getting kicked out of their homes because of the mortgage crisis and made huge profits based on it. And now she tries to go around not only saying that she's an American Indian, but how she's a hero to the American people, trying to fight for the little guy when she was screwing the little guy over during the mortgage meltdown. So I'll definitely go over that. So that's profiles in corruption so far. There's quite a ways to go. So I'll have plenty of content to go over. But, again, I'll reiterate. These are things that Trump had missed. These are things that he could have used in the debate. The Willie Brown stuff would have been great. Everybody knows who's in the know, knows the Willie Brown. They sort of know the Willie Brown thing. But that, again, and another thing that just drives me insane, what I don't understand about Trump, and I'm going to vote for him, but I just have no motivation anymore, is that if he were to get on Twitter or X and post this stuff on X, he'd have so much more he would get so much more traction. But he's got this thing with Truth, and it's like, I never go on Truth. I'm sorry, but there's just too many places to go for social media that Truth is just one more pain in the ass thing to go and look. And it doesn't really work all that well. X doesn't work all that well, especially, when it comes to trying to do stuff that's live. I mean, I'm seeing myself right here live, but it's not showing up on my... There's so many bugs in X right now. But anyway, that's it for tonight, Kazan. Pocahontas is on the cover. Amy Klobuchar, I forgot how that one goes. But yeah, it's a really good book. And I think what I'll do is I'll do an Amazon next week. I'll do an Amazon link to get it, like one of those commission links or something. But thank you all, Kazan. Thanks. Good to see you. Sorry I've not been consistent, but I appreciate you coming out, and I appreciate the support. And I will definitely, obviously, be here Thursday. I moved it back to 9:30 only because my work schedule and stuff like that makes it a little bit more difficult. And I might even just get on a little bit over the weekend, possibly, depending on how things go. But great to see you all. Thank you again for dropping by, and we'll see you in the next live stream. Bye.